Hello, my people. Thank you once again for joining me for Monday's mental conditioning message. Mental conditioning Monday. Thank you once again for joining me. The setting is a little bit different today, but the message is going to be just the same. I've been running around, still got quite a bit to do today, so sometimes you just have to stop where you at and do what you have to do in terms of getting the message out there. And it's that way for us in our everyday lives. We always try to take a little bit of time to just go into that mental gym. Sometimes it can be wherever you're at, just stop and put the work in and strengthening your mind. So I'm going to do that right now, for our mental conditioning Monday. We're going to talk a little bit about the logic behind mental conditioning and the logic behind, strengthening our mind. What does that really mean? I talk so much about it, but logically, what does that mean to our lives? The message of mental conditioning, the message of strengthening our mind. So when I do my workshops, which I just did one last week and it was super powerful. We're working on the mental conditioning family series. We talked about marriage in the workshop. But one of the things that I usually point out is that, to me, the whole movement of mental conditioning, I kind of liken it to a couple of things. I liken it to a puzzle. It's very similar to a puzzle. And it's not one of those puzzles where when you're little and you get like 8 pieces and you can put the 8 pieces together and there's no problem. But it's really one of those jigsaw puzzles where it's like 1,000 pieces, where you have to dump it out on the table and there's so many different, pieces on the table. And it's really a daunting task and sometimes a discouraging task to sit there and try to put all those little pieces of the puzzle together. But the thing about it is that when you take the time to go through that task of putting those little pieces together, as you start to see a picture formulate on that canvas, on that table, we have all those little pieces. It starts to provide a tremendous amount of inspiration. It provides an inspiration for you to keep going. Mental conditioning is very much the same. The task of strengthening your mind is a daunting task, but if you take the time and take the commitment to execute it, you start to see the power in it. It's also very similar to, math problems. In math problems, there's a certain logic to it. And when we go wrong in our lives, when we're trying to strengthen our minds and train ourselves in mental conditioning, one of the areas that we go wrong is that we try to force logical solutions incorrectly. For example, 1 plus 1 equals 2. But in our lives now, stay with me on that, we a lot of times try to equate 1 plus 1 to equal 5, or 1 plus 1 equals 7, or 1 plus 1 equals 8. 1 plus 1 will always equal 2. So what do I mean when I talk about that and I equate it to our lives? I'm going to bring it full circle to you and show you how mental strength is so powerful and it plays such a prominent role, in our lives. Oftentimes, we struggle in our lives. It's not easy just going through the everyday tasks and goals of our lives. And we get a lot of times we get very, very, very frustrated, and sometimes we fall into a sense of depression because things are not going the direction that we want it to go in major aspects of our lives. And sometimes you'll say to yourself, you know what, I'm not attracting the type of people that I'm looking to attract. Maybe you want to be married, or maybe you are married and you're like, I'm on my 3rd divorce, or maybe you can't hold down a job that you want to hold down, or maybe trying to start your own business that you want to start, and these things are not working. And a lot of times the logical thing, or the natural thing for us to do, I shouldn't say logical, the natural thing for us to do is to start doing what? We start making excuses as to why these things are not happening for us, Everybody that I get involved with, there's something wrong with them. On the job, the supervisor doesn't like me, or, business never comes my way. But that's where the mental strength has to play a role here. And that's where I want to bring it and show you about the logical thing about that puzzle, the logical thing about that math problem that I just gave you. You have to be able to look within yourself. The first step of mental conditioning is self-evaluation. So now you're going to turn those excuses into why. Why is this happening? And it's not easy because now it comes back to self-evaluation. So to take those quick examples that I just gave you, maybe you want to be an entrepreneur and you want to own your own business, but for whatever the reason, you keep running into blocks and you start to make excuses as to, you know what, no one ever wants to do any business with me. No one ever wants to work with me. There must be some sort of, conspiracy out there that people are jealous of my product or whatever it is that you're trying to do. I mean, those things could be possible. I'm not going to just sit here and say that that's impossible. Those things can be possible. But now you have to kind of take a look at yourself and what are you doing? Does it really match you? Does that logical thing of you wanting to be an entrepreneur, does that match you? For example, if you want to be an entrepreneur, there's certain things that you have to endure. For example, if you have a phone and you have a business line, you have to pick up, especially when you're starting out the business, and you may be the only real integral part of that business, you're going to have to respond to everything. Everything is on you. If that phone rings at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning with somebody wanting to do business with you, or somebody had a business deal on the table, that phone may ring at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Unfortunately, you can't just look at the phone and be like, I'll call him back whenever I feel like it. Call him back in a couple of days. No, that's not going to work out. Now, is that something wrong with that? Is that wrong? That's not wrong. But does that match up now to what you want to do in your goal of being an entrepreneur? It does not. So that's where you're trying to add 1 + 1 = 8. It does not fit. Now, look at it as simple. We talked about relationships briefly. I said in the beginning, maybe somebody, I'm on my 4th divorce. All these people that I deal with, is clearly something wrong with them. But then, again, it could be a situation where we're just throwing things out there. Maybe a person may say, I don't really believe in coming home 2 or 3 nights a week. And your spouse may not be okay with that. Is that something that's wrong? Are you wrong for that? That gets into a moral issue. However, the thing about it is that if you want to match it up to being married, if you want to be married, you want to be in a committed relationship, it's probably not the most prudent thing to come home 2 or 3 nights, not come home 2 or 3 nights a week. Does that match up to being in a committed marital situation? That does not really match up. So what ends up happening there is probably going to end up in divorce. So that's, again, you're trying to equate 1 + 1 = 5, 1 + 1 = 7, 1 + 1 = 8. Those things do not, work. If you're going to go out there and you're going to get a job, unfortunately, if you're going to work for someone, you kind of have to go by their rules. So if they're telling you, you have to be to work at 9 o'clock every day, and your thing is like, look, let me explain. So I don't get out of bed till 10:30, so I'll be in at 11. Again, is that okay for you to sleep till 11 o'clock? No one can tell you that's not okay. However, if you're going to be a employee and work for someone, that's probably not the direction that you're going to go in without being fired. So, and if you think that you can do that without being fired, now you're trying to add 1 + 1 and tell us all that the answer to that is 9. So these are things that it can be corrected, but it has to be corrected within you, because now that person who's an employee that wants to get up at 10:30, no problem. Guess what? That person is having more attitude of, maybe they're more of an entrepreneur. I don't get up till 11:30, but if my phone rings, I'm on point and I can deal with it no matter what time it is. So maybe you're matching up your life. You match up more to being, a business owner of your own. So it's not a negative thing. It's just, a reality-based thing. I once had the conversation about mental conditioning. The person said to me, I really like the concept of mental conditioning because it's just positive thinking. And I had to kind of correct that. It is a form of positive thinking. We always want to try to be our best and think our best. But mental conditioning, to me, and building our strength is not necessarily just positive thinking. But what I like to call it more than anything is reality-based thinking. It's being able to assess the things that are reality in our lives, because we have to be able to do that first before we can look at other people's lives. Or, I talked about that in the workshop when we talk about marriage and forming a union. It's very important before you can form a union with someone else, whether it's in a marriage, whether it's in a business, whether it's just in employer relationships. You have to know who you are first within you. And that's the equation that we're talking about. Matching that equation of the puzzle. The puzzle of you is complete. So now I can present myself to the rest of the world. I know 1 + 1 = 2. I have that logic down for who I am as a person. Now I'm ready to present it to the rest of the world. So that's not an easy task. I often say that. I say that a lot, and I'm going to keep saying it because none of this stuff is easy. I have gone through it myself. I mean, some of the most prominent things that I'm most proud of in my life, the breakthrough for me to get to the point to where I'm like, I'm really proud of having this particular breakthrough. I'm really proud of this accomplishment. Some of those things in my life, I had to get to in order for me to get to that point, I had to be able to have that reality check to understand, at some point in my life, I was adding 1 + 1 and I was getting 102. But until I realized 1 + 1 = 2, that's when I made my breakthrough. So I encourage everybody out there to, get in that mental gym. And remember, who's your best person to train with? Who's the person that you get the most out of training with? Really is you. Because when you do that, you create that relationship with yourself. You create that bond with yourself to where you know who you are, and now you can present yourself to everyone else. So that's my message for Mental Conditioning Monday. It's not an easy task to do, but that's my message for Mental Conditioning Monday. I hope you guys are out there in the gym, and sometimes wherever you at, you have to take the message there, whether it's in your actual gym, in your bathrooms, wherever it may be. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for the support for Mental Conditioning Monday, and I will see you guys during the week. And definitely next Monday. Later.